Good evening. Welcome to the program. I'm Leland Vittert. Joe Biden ran on a platform, a promise of getting the pandemic and the coronavirus under control. As we told you last night, it basically is under control. What's confusing is why he keeps letting it define his presidency. Today, he rolled out his winter plan.
It doesn't include shutdowns or lockdowns, but widespread vaccinations and boosters and testing and a lot more.
This is either the third or fourth plan by the Biden administration to get COVID under control. We will not exactly go through all the steps and bore you with the details, but we do want to briefly go back to some of the data from last night, a brief refresher of where we're at. Despite the fear of Omicron, it is not responsible, as far as we know, for a single hospitalization or death in the entire world. Many of the cases are asymptomatic, the rest are mild. And experts say the current vaccines still likely protect you from serious illness and death. Speaking of vaccines, a vaccinated American is highly unlikely to die of COVID. How unlikely? 0.00001. We have that on the screen. It is 4 zeros. And that includes people already fighting cancer, have heart disease, or are extremely old. As a healthy adult with the vaccine, your chance of dying of COVID is statistically insignificant. But still, almost every day, President Biden bangs the COVID drum.
Last Christmas, our children were at risk without a COVID-19 vaccine. This Christmas, we have safe, effective vaccines for children aged 5 and older, with 20 million children and counting now vaccinated.
All right, so let's talk about kids. The danger to kids that President Biden talks about. Since COVID began, less than 700 children have died from COVID, and that number includes kids who were already fighting cancer, have compromised immune systems, or are otherwise in rough shape. By comparison, 2,459 have died since last March of gun violence. Nearly 50,000 children have died of all causes. Clearly, COVID is not anywhere near the most significant risk. Yet today, Mr. Biden ordered the extension of the most visible pandemic reminder. Masks on airplanes and in airports now continues through March. Is that really the best way to keep us all safe? Well, surgical masks are 95% effective. The cloth masks that most people wear and are allowed on airplanes, in schools, and workplaces are just 37% effective at best. It's not as if the pandemic is helping him politically. Here's the Real Clear Politics average. His approval rating is within a point of its all-time low. He's lost 20 points in his handling of COVID. Now more disapprove than approve. Here is candidate Biden in October of last year.
The refusal of the Trump administration to recognize the reality we're living through at a time when almost 1,000 Americans a day are dying every single day is an insult to every single person suffering from COVID-19.
Let's flip that on its head. Failing to recognize how good things are right now is an insult to all of us suffering with masks and all the kids sitting in plexiglass cages at school. Again, why not declare victory now that COVID is roughly as deadly for vaccinated adults as is the flu? There's a political component to that question. Bob Cusack of The Hill is here for that. There's also a cultural answer, perhaps. For that, we bring in Adam Carolla, one of America's most successful comedians and podcasters. And rightfully, someone could ask us, why ask a comedian about this serious subject? Fair question, but comedians, by definition, have an incredibly deep understanding of the human equation. So that is where we start with Adam. Is there a base or a certain part of Biden's base that just loves the pandemic, Adam?
Oh, absolutely. And also, they basically don't want to admit they were wrong, because if they're wrong about this, what else could they have been wrong about? So basically, they've been saying for a year and a half, X, Y, and Z is going to happen if we don't do PD and Q, and it hasn't happened, and now they're at a weird crossroads. They could either admit they were wrong, in which case we would throw that in their face the next time they made a declaration or a proclamation, or they could just double down on being wrong. And as far as the kids go, I was really thinking about this. Like, what are they so obsessed with the kids for? It doesn't do anything to kids. Statistically, it doesn't hurt kids. It's really not a kid issue. It's not a kid-based virus. It just doesn't hurt them. You put the statistics up on your screen moments ago. I will tell you why they're so focused on the kids and so focused on shutting schools down and so focused on everything else. One is, if you get the kids, you get the moms. They don't need the kids. They need the moms who are watching CNN and wringing their hands over what could happen to their kids, because they're the ones who vote. They're the ones who push this agenda. So they don't really need the kids, but they need the moms. Many moms have elderly parents or grandparents, but they don't really talk about them. They're the most vulnerable, but they don't talk about the most vulnerable. They talk about the least vulnerable, because a mom will always step up on behalf of the kids. And the second reason they need the kids is because you can't crate train a dog when a dog is an adult. You have to crate train the dog when the dog is a puppy, and they need to get the masks on, and they need to get the vax on, and they need to crate train the kids because they're going to need them later.
It's interesting you bring up the issue of keeping schools open or closed, and obviously the teachers' unions and certainly a lot of blue states really shut down schools and went to all virtual learning last year. Now President Biden is realizing how unpopular closed schools are with exactly the people you're talking about, moms. So he's now talking about how he has this big plan to keep schools open through masking and testing of kids and the like. I want to get your thought on this. I'm wondering how soon people start equating the pandemic and the coronavirus with President Biden rather than President Trump. I ask it this because of this. I was talking to conservatives over the past couple of days, and they now are starting to try and call the Omicron variant, and this is some of my more right-wing friends, but they've decided they're going to dub it the Brandon variant, which, if something like that sticks, and I can see you smiling, when you start smiling about something like that, I feel like you as a comedian would have a unique perspective that there's something in the American populace and something that kind of touched.
Well, it's funny. I did a little informal survey around here in terms of who is scared of the new variant, and the answer is nobody. So CNN is ringing that alarm bell 24/7. But they're the boy that cried wolf, and people aren't down with it. They've been fooled once. I feel like they're not going to get fooled again. So this thing that they keep going back to has less and less traction each time they go back to it. I mean, you think about 24/7 coverage on a lot of these news outlets about this latest variant, but then you go outside and nobody's changed their behavior whatsoever. That just means they're not listening. It doesn't mean they haven't heard it. It means they're not modifying their behavior because they now know that these people have been lying to them.
Well, yeah, and to your point, you can only sort of keep people cooped up and say, do X, Y, or Z, and then you can be free. If you keep changing the goalposts over and over, as has happened, then people eventually just say, fine, I'm going to just go about my normal life. You said something important about why the administration keeps talking about kids. Dr. Marty McCary earlier, just after President Biden's speech, had an interesting thought. Take a listen.
We're not talking about the underlying problem in the United States of unvaccinated adults with a risk factor like obesity who haven't had natural immunity. They're the ones filling the ICU right now. And the idea that somehow we need to vaccinate children in order to allow them to go back to school.
Now, he went on to say that's really not what we have to worry about. Why wouldn't, if President Biden wants to save lives, as he says he does, and his administration says that's what's important, why aren't they banging the drum of unvaccinated adults with obesity who haven't had natural immunity?
Well, we decided that body shaming was a no-fly zone a few years ago, and you're exactly right. But I also feel like nobody cares about the obese people that are middle-aged or older. we do care about the kids. You cannot get the moms agitated with the 61-year-old obese truck driver, but if you focus on the kids, you can scare the crap out of the populace, and you can get the moms who basically drive the agenda at the house.
Yeah.
So everything is focused on kids and moms. Here's what you need the moms for. The moms are going to dictate policy, because they're the ones who are saying, no, you don't leave the house without this. Wash your hands, take your shoes off. Dads oftentimes, A, don't care as much, or B, are physically out of the house, oftentimes working. So they have figured out that the conduit that they can move all their fear porn through is the moms, and the only way to get to the moms is to talk about the kids.
And moms are the suburban swing voters who went hard for President Biden in 2020 against President Trump. They also went hard for Glenn Youngkin. Especially moms went hard for Glenn Youngkin in Virginia. So things definitely changed. Adam, I know this is going to give you an awful lot of material coming up for your new comedy special, Truth Yeller on the Daily Wire, episodes with Jay Leno, Rob Riggle, and a lot of others. I'm going to tune into Jay Leno. He's one of my favorites other than you. Good to see you, my friend.
Thank you, Leland. Appreciate it.
Thank you. At this point, President Biden has been in office and dealing with the pandemic for almost exactly the same amount of time as President Trump. And despite President Biden's promise to be the adult in the room and solve the problem, he said it during the campaign, said it in February, said it in July, and is saying it now, the results have been shockingly similar between the two presidents. Nearly the same amount of pandemic days under their belts. President Biden, 317 days. President Trump, 315 days. President Biden has 500,000 more cases. President Trump has roughly 7,000 more deaths. Effectively the same. Yet President Biden still views banging the pandemic drum as a politically important and necessary thing. Bob Cusack, editor-in-chief of The Hill, joins us now. Bob, I promise I did not plan this segment before reading this, but just a couple of minutes ago, Kimberly Strassel, who certainly smarter than me, but I wouldn't say smarter than you, just dropped a piece on the Wall Street Journal. Biden's COVID quagmire. He can't keep his promise to beat the virus. Can he escape it before it is too late?
Leland, that's a very good question. I mean, President Biden was basically spiking the ball in July when things were better and the Delta variant hadn't hit globally, certainly not the United States. And those numbers you show that compares Trump to Biden, certainly the White House would not have thought those numbers would be where they are right now. And as your polling that you put up suggests, he's below water on that, and that was the one issue that he was always above water on. But it's interesting that Biden is not going too far as lockdowns, because he knows those are not popular. But the Democratic playbook is, when there's a problem, you regulate it and you mandate, and that's what the parties are fighting about right now.
You made a great point about how the Democratic sort of playbook is to regulate it and mandate it and on and on. What he's not doing is really going out on any more mandates. His contractor mandate's gotten shot down. His healthcare worker mandate has been put on pause. There's only one. His federal workers mandate has made its way through. The OSHA mandate failed in the courts as well. But he's not, for example, saying, all right, now we're going to demand vaccination cards for domestic commercial airline travel. Why not double down in that way?
Because I think of the fatigue of the last roughly 2 years. And, on the OSHA mandate, and I used to cover OSHA, they don't have a good track record for decades in court. And I didn't think it made sense to mandate for employers who have 100 or more workers to have the mandate, but you're not doing a mandate across the board. So I'm not surprised, and I don't think the administration is surprised that did not hold legal muster. But no, I think that's a good point as far as what Biden, he won't go too far, because we just saw Virginia and parents are upset. And that's why part of the reason why Terry McAuliffe lost.
It's interesting, though, still politically, the White House every day wakes up and can decide what they want to talk about, decide what they want to highlight. And almost every other day now, there is some kind of COVID pandemic event. Here was President Biden today. Take a listen.
I've seen more of Dr. Fauci than I have my wife. We kid each other, but they look, who's president? Fauci. But all kidding aside, I sincerely mean it.
Put aside whether or not you like Dr. Fauci or not, he is somebody who at least half of the country really hates. The polling shows that and doesn't trust. Why does President Biden keep embracing him, or does the White House just not realize that?
Well, I think the White House is really struggling to see what this is a very difficult virus to get on top of. The White House clearly has not. I mean, in some ways, as you said, there's been progress. We're back to sports games, even indoor basketball games. But at the same time, those numbers and this new variant, which we really don't know too much about, is here. And the fact that he's talking about it means they're troubled by it. But you're right. I mean, Fauci is someone who's a very polarizing figure. You either love him or you hate him. And certainly Republicans are talking more about Fauci because the base loves it. And this White House realizes that unless those numbers that you put up significantly improve, this is going to be a very, very difficult midterm election for Democrats, because that's what Biden ran on. And even after his infrastructure bill passed, his numbers didn't go up. People are just frustrated and fatigued of this virus, and fatigued of wearing masks, too.
Yeah, no, they're fatigued about the whole point. But I guess that is what I'm trying to get to. In the way Kimberly Strassel writes it at the end, the Biden administration at some point will realize that its political fortunes are tied to a virus that isn't going anywhere. The longer it takes to make a clean break, the likelier it is to succumb to COVID. Why not just make a clean break and say, hey, sports games, go back to it. Mask mandates are a local issue or an airline issue. I've kept people from dying. I've got vaccines. I've got convalescents, and declare victory.
Yeah, I think at some point they might have to do that. They're not going to do it anytime soon, but I think they could do it certainly in 2022 before the election, because, Leland, as you know, I mean, this is not going anywhere. New Zealand tried a strategy of just eradicating all COVID cases. You can't do it. It's just too elusive of a virus. And that's what I think the White House will try to put a happier face on before the November 2022 elections.
Yeah, you can imagine perhaps after Build Back Better passes, we might see a change in messaging. Hey, Bob, it's always great to talk to you, and really always appreciate all the work you guys do at The Hill, our sister property. Thank you.
Thanks, Leland.
Yeah. All right. What will it take, or is it too late, perhaps, for America to finally stand up to China? Plus, what President Biden is not telling you about his massive spending bill and how it could reshape our immigration system. We'll see you on the other side.
It means for millions of American families, this bill, the bills you're paying right now for daycare could be substantially lowered, capped at 7% of your income.
That's President Biden selling his Build Back Better plan. One thing the president never says as he's talking about all the free stuff that the taxpayers are going to pay for in his Build Back Better spending bill is it would give amnesty, as it stands now, to 6.5 million illegal immigrants. It would allow them to obtain government benefits, conceivably. Depends on which plan you look at. Soon we're going to learn if the Senate rules allow Democrats to include amnesty in the bill. The Senate parliamentarian will decide whether you need 50 or 60 votes for amnesty. We'll figure that out here in the coming days. One thing is clear. Amnesty could really increase the number of people coming across the border illegally at a time we're facing the worst border crisis in decades. Now the Biden administration has reached a deal with Mexico to restart the Trump-era Remain in Mexico order for migrants. The White House has abolished the program within hours of President Biden taking office, but now the courts have ordered him to re-implement it, so here we go. Our next guest knows the immigration system well. Her family sought asylum here from Vietnam's communist regime. Amy Phan West, Republican congressional candidate in California. Amy, good to see you. We appreciate it. Purely from a political standpoint, the idea for Republicans of President Biden trying to push through amnesty has got to be pretty good for a candidate like yourself, isn't it?
Absolutely. Leland, thank you so much for having me. And, you know, it was actually Biden who didn't want us during the fall of Saigon to come to America as refugees. And now he's allowing all the illegal immigrants to come in without any legal paper or anything like that. It's really unacceptable.
I'm wondering, because you have such a unique perspective on this, and you point out that you came over, I guess people call you your family part of the Vietnamese boat people. That finally made it to America, and we're glad you're here. How does this work for Republicans such as yourself who know how critical the American dream is? You all didn't have any papers when you escaped Vietnam. There's a lot of people escaping equally bad situations around the world. How do we not close the doors to them?
You know, I think immigration is a huge issue right now in my district, and not only that, but in our nation that we have to deal with. Under Biden administration, open border is bringing more harm to this nation, especially the flow of drugs, opioid, you know, and all those drugs are coming. Not only that, but sex trafficking of children through the border. And it's unacceptable because what he's doing is more dangerous for the American people and those who are coming through this voyage.
But wasn't that some of the same arguments that were used to keep families like yours out?
But you know what? Actually, what we did was my dad had paper from serving alongside the American during the fall of Saigon.
Okay.
He fought alongside them. And so he had those paperwork, and we were seeking asylum in Thailand refugee camps. And there we waited our turn the legal way. And finally, they granted us asylum to come to America. Now, what we need to do as your next Congresswoman is making sure that making it easier for for those who are seeking immigration in their country to have access to come to America. And that's what we need to do. And if we
you favor expanding, or at least certainly allowing legal immigration, asylum immigration, but done so legally. I'm interested. There is from the Republican side sort of this dog whistle about immigrants bringing COVID and whether immigrants are being tested on the southern border. Take a listen to Dr. Fauci and my old colleague Peter Doocy going at it.
As you advised the president about the possibility of new testing requirements for people coming into this country, does that include everybody?
The answer is yes.
Well, what about people who don't take a plane and just these border crossers coming in huge numbers?
That's a different issue.
Yeah, I'm wondering how you think about that.
You know what? Fauci is a liar through and through, and he doesn't speak truth at all. And what they're doing right now, they're not vetting everyone at the border. And we know that they're bringing in different virus and disease. Like for us, when we were at the Thailand refugee camp, we got our immunization, we got our shot. And I remember, I'm not against vaccine. I'm not against shot because we're protecting the people in America, and that's what we have to do. And I went through that process.
No, so you bring a unique perspective on going through the process. Perhaps you could almost think about remain in Mexico a little bit like remain in Thailand, the way your family did. Amy, we appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. A billionaire coddles China. One sports organization has the courage to stand up to the regime. We're going to show you both when we come back. Welcome back. Tonight we are adding a few names to our list of communist China's allies here in America. First name to put up, Ray Dalio, the billionaire hedge fund manager who invests heavily in China. He's often called the China Bull. And yesterday compared genocide and disappearing people in China to another but perfectly acceptable way of raising kids.
What they have is an autocratic system. In China, it's an extension of the family. What they're doing is that it's that kind of like a strict parent. They behave like a strict parent.
In case you're wondering, it gets worse and more concerning from there. We're going to play it in a minute. So we add Ray Dalio to LeBron James, the NBA, Apple, Nike, Adidas, Amazon, the North Face, countless others who bend to the knee of the communists. We can include most of the broadcast news organizations as well, whose parent companies tread lightly on reporting on China's human rights abuses. NBC, of course, wouldn't want to screw up their Olympic contract for the Beijing 2022 Olympics. And ABC needs Beijing's blessing to keep the Disney theme parks there and release Disney movies in China. Okay, so you all are a bunch of sellouts. But what about politicians here in America? There's one U.S. senator right now standing up to Beijing, Marco Rubio, who is holding up the entire Defense Authorization Act to include language that bans goods from Xinjiang, China. Here's the senator explaining why.
Uyghur Muslims are taken from their homes, from their families. They're forced to work in these factories as slaves. They're forced to renounce their religion, change their name, forced sterilization, forced abortions. It's been characterized, rightfully so, as genocide.
So who could be against a bill that would ban the import of goods made by slave labor? Who could possibly be against that? Turns out there's a lot of people. A bunch of America's biggest companies lobbied against such a bill, and the Senate Majority Leader calls it, quote, a poison pill. We sent Kellie Meyer up to Capitol Hill to try to figure out exactly why and follow the money a little bit. She joins us now. Good evening, Kellie.
Good evening, Leland. Well, as you heard there in his floor speech, Senator Rubio, this is something he's incredibly passionate about here. It's one of the two issues he's focusing on here on Capitol Hill, and that's China and human rights. He wanted to add this amendment to this bill to protect the Uyghur population from slave labor in the region. Leland, this is something that passed in the Senate without a problem in the summer, and now Senate Democrats are calling this stalemate by Rubio, quote, absurd. The Senate Majority Leader is asking Rubio to sleep on this, saying that the military is going to be left unfunded. But Rubio's office told me today that there's another motivation for Democrats here, that the Biden administration, specifically the president's climate czar, John Kerry, is blocking this with House Democrats because it gets in the way of their climate agenda, blocking solar panels or electric car parts from getting to the country with what Rubio plans to do with this ban. You know, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi saying today that she will introduce a bill and get these human rights abuses taken care of in a bill, promising Rubio that that will happen. But Rubio saying he wants to get this done now, and other prominent Republicans are joining him in this effort, saying that we need to protect this population.
I implore Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer to move past procedural roadblocks and send a clear, convincing message to China and the world at large that goods produced with slave labor are not allowed in the United States of America.
Marco Rubio has been a good champion for human rights in China, but we have a disagreement. I don't know why he's using this to hold up the DOD bill.
And Leland, the White House punting on this today, saying that the president can handle both human rights as well as climate at the same time here.
He's using it to hold up the DOD bill, so it actually perhaps gets a real up or down vote and isn't buried on the House floor. Kellie, thank you very much. We appreciate it. South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace knows full well the dangers presented by China. She spent Thanksgiving break in Taiwan, which the Chinese maintain is their territory. Obviously, the U.S. disagrees with that in a way. Congresswoman, it's good to see you. Is it really as simple as we need solar panels and we need China's cooperation on climate, so let the genocide go on?
Yeah, it's really sad and quite, you know, what it solidified for me going overseas and spending Thanksgiving with our soldiers in the Indo-Pacific and ending it in Taiwan is just how serious the situation is. And Americans, American companies, and companies around the world want to turn a blind eye to genocide because they don't want their iPhones costing $5,000. The threat is serious in America. After this trip, after seeing the aggression of China while we were there, we shouldn't be purchasing products made with slave labor, full stop. And I support Senator Rubio and those efforts, whether it's now or in the future. I mean, we've got to put this to a stop. And the other thing is that we've got to think about, too, is with China's aggression on Taiwan, there are non-kinetic and non-military ways to hold their feet to the fire and avoid a war with China in the future in the Indo-Pacific region, or quite frankly, anywhere else. And that is economically. And what Senator Rubio is doing is a means to an end to hold them accountable. The other example, too, is that we make blood diamonds illegal internationally. So we should do the same sorts of things economically.
So why not? It seems so obvious. It seems akin to, you know, buying stuff from Nazi Germany in the 30s and turning a blind eye to it being made in concentration camps. Why is this even an issue?
It shouldn't be controversial, but again, people do not want their devices to cost thousands of dollars. What we should do is open up trade with other countries, including Taiwan and other nations that can stand up manufacturing in less than 60 days like Taiwan can do. We should open up the floodgates so that we can do business with others. China isn't the only country in the world with minerals. Our northern neighbor in Canada has precious metals and minerals that can be accessed for...
I get all that, but why not? Is it because leadership in the House and the Senate is in the pocket of the Chinese somehow, or are they in the pocket of the companies that have economic interests in China? There's got to be a reason that this isn't happening.
It could be all of the above, quite frankly. And I'm really scratching my head. And after the bipartisan trip that I just had to Taiwan, I'm encouraging all of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to take the trip to see what's really going on and see the threat of China, to see why genocide, we should not turn a blind eye to that. And there are opportunities to work with countries elsewhere in the world to make this painful for China and hold them completely accountable.
Well, nobody is as of now, and obviously U.S. investment in China continues. We promised a little bit more from Ray Dalio, who I guess you could say has some unique views on parenting based on how he thinks that the Chinese are just strict parents. Take a listen.
I saw those comments for the first time, Leland, on your segment just there, and it's truly disgusting.
Yeah, that's one word for it. Take a listen to some of the other things he had to say when questioned about China's human rights abuses.
Well, I can't be an expert in those types of things. What I basically do, and for 50 years I invest all over the world, I look to whatever the rules are. If the government has a policy that I should do a certain thing and so on, but I can't be an expert in all of those particular dynamics.
Very hard to be an expert, really easy to be a coward. On that note, should American companies face some type of penalty for investing in China and with companies that are tied to genocide and helping Beijing?
I am absolutely open to all of the above. That includes pulling out of the Olympics. That includes ensuring we're not buying products that are made with slave labor or are not made by the Uyghurs who have been forced into slave labor. I think all options should be on the table. And the more that we learn, truly the worse it gets. And as I've heard earlier today, you've got some of these American companies, these corporations lobbying against Senator Rubio's amendment, which is so crazy to me that it's okay because we don't want our devices to cost very much money, that we should continue business.
It's not even, it's one thing to say we don't devices cost very much. It's another thing to lobby against it so you can keep selling in China and keeping on the good side of the CCP. That's even something probably even more atrocious. Congresswoman, it's good to see you. Happy birthday. Have a great weekend celebrating.
Thank you so much and have a great weekend.
Thank you, ma'am. Jussie Smollett is still denying.
I've been consistent on every single level since day one. I would not be my mother's son if I was capable of one drop of what I was been accused of.
All right. Jussie Smollett and his defense team is still denying he staged a phony hate crime against himself. New testimony today, and why won't he just say he's sorry?
A star witness in the criminal trial for Jussie Smollett, Abimbola Asundero, testified the former Empire actor paid him and his brother to carry out a pre-planned assault involving bleach, a noose, and flurry of racist and homophobic slurs.
Defense attorneys and the prosecution today clashing over witness testimony during day 4 of the trial of actor Jussie Smollett, who's accused of faking a hate crime 2 years ago. 2 Nigerian brothers testified that Smallett paid them and it was a hoax. The defense attorney suggested the brothers carried out the attack to try and push Smallett to hire one of them as a private security guard. If you're having trouble figuring that out, so are we. As you may recall, Smallett sparked a national uproar in January 2019 when he alleged that 2 men attacked him outside a subway in Chicago during a frigid night before they tied a noose around his neck and poured a chemical on him and yelled a pro-Trump slogan. After a lengthy investigation, Chicago police officers found no surveillance video and finally concluded it was a hoax, publicity stunt. Officers say Smallett paid the 2 brothers $3,500 to carry out the hoax attack, and they were seen on surveillance video buying supplies prior to the incident. Smallett was indicted on charges that he lied to police, but after Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx dropped the original charges against Smallett, special prosecutor was appointed in the case, which has reviewed the whole case. They say they have video showing Smallett and the siblings doing a dry run a day before the alleged attack. The defense maintains Smallett was a real victim of a real crime and that the police rushed to judgment. Bringing Bradley, WGN News anchor, has been covering this story. Arthur Aidala, a New York trial attorney. Gentlemen, good to see both of you. Jussie Smollett's looking for the real victim and OJ's looking for the real killer. But Arthur, you think about this, defense that they have. The defense suggested they carried out the attack to try and push Smallett to hire one of them as a private security guard. I don't even understand that. Do you?
Well, no, neither do I. But I will tell you, it seems like reading the reports of what took place in court today, that they did make some ground, they made up some ground in their cross-examination when they basically contradicted, they got the witness to contradict what they said earlier in the grand jury about what happened to what they said in the courtroom. So as a defense attorney, you try to score those points, those little points, wherever you can. But there is some evidence that shows very clearly that something just wasn't right here.
Yeah, and Ben, we're still waiting for this videotape of the dry run. You think about all the things that are going on in the world and that really are serious and require a lot of attention. We're spending a lot of time and a lot of money on this case. Is this in Chicago really about whether or not Jussie Smollett had a fake attack?
Well, initially it was, because there was a lot of outrage because our city was slandered. Since then, it's become a referendum on how Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx has run her office, because she gave Jussie Smollett the ultimate break, and she did so after being lobbied by some influential friends. And that break was essentially, Jussie, you know what? We'll cut this deal. You'll do a little community service with Jesse Jackson down at Rainbow Push, forfeit your bond, and you go home. Oops, the prosecutor did not require Jussie Smollett to admit he did anything wrong. So then he walked out of that courtroom a couple of years ago in front of the cameras, said, see, I really was attacked. And that's how a special prosecutor got appointed.
Yeah, and as we understand it, the special prosecutor has quite the reputation.
He does.
Former U.S. attorney. Arthur, I'm wondering, the defense here is the brothers are homophobic and set up Smallett. If you were Jussie Smollett's lawyer, would you have advised him, even with this special prosecutor, take a plea, say you're sorry, and move on?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting from a legal point of view. Had he originally taken a plea and did the community service with Jussie, it would be double jeopardy. They could not be trying him again, even if it was a lesser included plea, a little plea, but it was about the same, what's called TPO, time and place of occurrence. But because he didn't plead to anything, they were able to charge him again. And I mean, of course, if you have a guarantee outcome in a case where he would plead to some disorderly conduct, he should have taken it. But here, I think he's fighting for his reputation more than anything else.
Ben, at least in Chicago, can he get his reputation back?
No, his reputation is gone here. He didn't have much of one beforehand. I think he was known to Empire fans. But you know, this whole notion, and this is what didn't sit right with a lot of us in Chicago. Let's see, a January day, it was about 8 degrees outside. It was 2:30 in the morning, and he decided to go for a Subway sandwich. And on the way back, a guy in a MAGA hat and another guy just happened to know who Jussie Smollett was on Lower Michigan Avenue. There were a lot of questions out of the gate on this. But to your point, we've had 1,000 homicides in Cook County this year. Not since the 90s have we had that. So this is, from a criminal perspective, the least important case now on trial at the Cook County Criminal Courthouse.
Thousands and thousands of hours of detective work done on this when they actually thought it was a real attack, trying to find the real MAGA attackers. Ben, thank you. Arthur, I'm sure your new daughter's watching on TV. She likes seeing Dad on the air.
So that's what 2-week-olds do. That's what they do. They watch NewsNation.
We got to start them when they're young. Congratulations. It's good to see you both. Thanks, fellas.
Thank you.
Coming up next, find out how a woman went toe-to-toe with Walmart and won.
I remember going in that little room and I was like, this will be resolved. This was an accident. This wasn't on purpose.
All right. That's Lesleigh Nurse, who Walmart accused of shoplifting back in 2016. Now, the retail giant owes her $2.1 million. Walmart managers accused her of stealing $48 worth of merchandise. As the case made its way through the criminal court system, Walmart tried to collect civil damages from her, demanding $200 to settle the case. She refused and sued, saying it was a shakedown. This week, a jury awarded her $2.1 million in punitive damages. Her lawyer, Vince Kilborn, joins us now. Mr. Kilborn, good to see you. We appreciate it. Explain this to us. $1 in real damages, $2.1 million in punitive damages. Walmart says they're going to start filing motions pretty soon. You guys going to actually get that money?
You better believe it. Walmart has conducted a war against Lesleigh Nurse. It started out that they bought a Christmas tree that night, her and her husband and the kids, and they wanted to buy Christmas lights for the tree. So she goes into Walmart, shopping for Christmas tree lights and a few other items. The scanner starts creating problems. She calls the host over. The host helps them with the scanning. The host sees everything. The whole thing's recorded on video. Unfortunately, Walmart destroyed the video. So she goes in the security office. She's accused of shoplifting. She said, I didn't do it. I go call the host over. She's an eyewitness. And they don't do that. Show the video. They don't do that. They criminally prosecute her. At the same time the prosecution was going on, they started sending these civil recovery letters, which ultimately we find out is a scam that Walmart's got going on across the United States.
As I understand it, they ended it back in 2018 of doing this. There were 4 things you sued Walmart for. The jury found that Walmart did not commit false arrest or malicious prosecution. So if she didn't shoplift, why would the jury not find that they did something wrong for false arrest and false prosecution?
Well, because the tort that they found Walmart guilty of is called abuse of process. It's an intentional tort, meaning that Walmart criminally prosecuted Lesleigh Nurse for the sole purpose of getting money.
Right, but they found Walmart not guilty of false arrest and not guilty of malicious prosecution, right?
They did, but what they did find them guilty of is worse than any of those. It's the misuse of the criminal justice system, which Walmart did, and the jury didn't like it, and that's why the large punitive damage award was made.
So, and you think that the punitive damage, even given sort of so high it is, you don't think it's going to be overturned or thrown out?
No, it's not going to be overturned. We'll have some post-trial motions, and the judge is going to rule in our favor.
It's interesting because as Walmart looks at it, I mean, we can all agree that stopping shoplifting is in all of our interest because the retailers just pass on the cost to us. Walmart says we continue to believe our associates acted appropriately, meaning they still believe that they had the evidence that she shoplifted and that the jury found that they, I guess, were correct in holding her and trying to prosecute her.
Well, they contended a lot of things. Trouble is, the jury disagreed with them. And the jury disagreed with them on a rarely used but very effective tort, which you cannot misuse the criminal justice system.
I just want to understand, were you accusing them of misusing the criminal justice system or accusing them of misusing the civil recovery system?
Well, they use the civil recovery system as an excuse, but the jury found, and the testimony was, that they had taken that statute and weaponized it and tried to improve on it, but they violated the statute when they tried to improve on it and make these letters, which were permitted, much more threatening and much more vicious and much more scary.
You know, it's interesting because they were demanding that she pay and to make this go away. It's a fascinating case, and one obviously rarely goes all the way to trial. It's really an interesting one. Mr. Kilborn, we appreciate you being here. Enjoy the weekend and your victory, sir.
Okay, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate it and appreciate the time. All right, Dan Abrams has a live PD reunion you won't want to miss. That's coming up next. Tomorrow, Dr. Lauren Wright on the Pete Buttigieg-Kamala Harris feud. Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.